Hello there and welcome to a new episode of Afterthoughts, the third one that we devote to Cramers Etudes. If you haven't seen the previous episodes, I will link to them in the description box or here in the video. So what we did is actually to summarize, record Cramer Etudes, student of Clementi, early 19th century, begin 19th century music, and I play from an edition that is used by Beethoven. And what's interesting about that is, just to summarize, that Schindler, his assistant, wrote down some of the remarks that Beethoven made during his teaching. And those remarks that are signed by Beethoven, so approved by Beethoven, are bundled here in this edition. It's a universal edition, number 13353. I will mention that in the description box as well. So we did already 2 videos of 4 etudes, and tonight we've recorded another 4. We will do 5 episodes of 4 etudes. So this Afterthoughts is about etude number 9, 12, 13 and 15. That's the original number. So as I said, not all of the etudes of Cramer are bundled in this edition. So the first one is this. If you are familiar with this music, it might sound a little slow, my tempo. I don't know how it usually is played, but anyway, I don't think that this is a very fast piece. It's allegro moderato, and it's written in a 2/4 bar structure. And if we read what Beethoven is saying, it's actually very interesting that we can read what he said. He says, and I translate from German, the triplets and the bass are the main figure, and the accentuation is on the first one, obviously. And he says something strange, he says the first note of every triplet carries also the middle voices. So we talked a lot in previous episodes about accentuation and how accents can enhance, so to say, some notes within a figure, within a rhythmical figure, so that in a monodic sentence becomes a kind of polyphonic feeling. Beethoven is often writing or talking about 3 or 4 voice pieces. For this etudes, we come back to that when we play. Then he says, well, you have to practice that with a very strong accent, exaggerate. And then when you speed up a little bit, you can balance the proportion, but you should not play too fast. It's always in a very moderate movement, and even then this etude remains difficult. You have to pay attention until the end. That's interesting that he says it's a very moderate movement. It's allegro moderato, 2/4. You count in 8 notes, not in 4 in quarter notes. So you don't play, like, in my opinion, like this. I would say that you can play like that, but if you do that, the remarks of Beethoven, they are useless, because you don't have accents then on every first note of the triplet. Obviously the accent becomes on the quarter note. And if you slow it down a little bit, then it becomes heavier. And you have here a trill on the 8th note. which makes sense. In a faster movement, you would play a very short, silly ornament. Now you can play a trill, which is indicated as trill. So, but that's just how I think that this tempo is meant to be played. You can change that if you want, but you change then the fundamentals of this composition, and I'm not saying that I'm right, but it's just, again, as I feel it. So when you're used to something faster and you go to something slower, either you play it yourself or you listen to a recording that's played in a slower tempo than you're used to, it's always a big step. You need to adapt to that tempo. You have to listen at least 2 or 3 times to the same piece to adapt your ear to the new movement. I might have used this comparison before, but compared to when you drive on a highway and you drive 120 or even faster, and you abandon the highway, you come in a village where you have to drive 50 or 30, it feels not very nice. It's like you stand still, but it's only after a while that you feel again the movement and you see other things. Going slower means seeing more things. And here, main thing is to make a beautiful tone, both in the left hand and the right hand, and to be as melodic as you can. And for the rest, musically spoken, for interpretation, that's actually where it's about. Make beautiful tone and lead the listener through this piece. Like, I give you an example. The F sharp. It's very then comes the left hand. Goes on. Actually, that's all that it's about. Beautiful tone, also in the drums. Prepare your note. Slow down sometimes a little bit to enhance a new phrase. Okay, then we come again in a piece written in 2/4, A minor, moderato, espressivo. And if you see the notation, it's all in 32 notes. So again, that could indicate, and to many musicians it indicates 32 notes, 32nd notes, a very fast movement. And that's actually more late 19th century, like maybe even 20th century, because in the 18th century you find often sources that very clear tell you about the fact that the faster the note value is, the slower the tempo becomes. And if that's combined in the 2/4 bar structure, you can be sure that you have to count in 8 notes. It's moderato espressivo. So moderato espressivo is not something like this. Moderato espressivo is something else. So why is he choosing this notation? Because in the 32nd note you have to play with a lot of detail. It's even in Bach's music like that. So that's a very old 18th century tradition that Cramers is applying here in his Etudes. And if you read the comments of Beethoven here, he says the melody, and now you have to listen very carefully, is in the 2nd note of every group of the right hand. So not in the 1st one, in the 2nd one. And the 2nd one, and inevitably there becomes a counter accent, and that is very, very nice. And then he continues, he says the accent is on the 2nd note, but the melody, but this first note, of course, that carries the accent because that's the heavy beat. And again, he talks about studying this very, very, very slow. And when you speed up, you have to find a way that this accentuation is dividing in a natural way in your hand. I'm not talking about the left hand, but it's obviously a kind of melody, but it's supporting the right hand. So, doing this in this tempo, which I choose for this piece, is, to my feeling, very, very complicated. It is a different kind of difficulty than playing very fast. Playing very fast means that you have to read very fast, your fingers have to play very fast, but that's not the difficulty, it's the fact that you have to read or to memorize the notes very quickly in order to reproduce them very quickly. Just you have to develop a very fast motorical feeling. But in a fast tempo, you can't make that many accents, as you could do like this. I show you how I play this. So you have in the right hand, and actually the melody is very nice of Beethoven to have that he has seen this, because this is being overlooked, I think, in many performances, and again you can do it differently, but it's a very, very nice counter melody or counter accent and melody. And in the first in the other part of the hand you have this a kind of it's a baroque figure. I can tell you that's not easy. That's possible on a pianoforte. It works again great on the clavichord. And it's, by the way, it's Beethoven chooses. No, I can't say that, but the comments he subscribed with his own name are all but a few etudes that you can play on 5 octaves. You miss sometimes one note, the G, and then just play something else. So that's for that etude. That continues the whole piece. Difficult, not only to perform that one bar, but you have to continue that throughout the whole piece. Then the number 13. Very nice music, actually. Spiritoso. And again, what he says here is about accentuation. It's always about accentuation. Long, short, heavy, light. That's actually the only goal for these etudes. He's never talking about practicing motorical things. He's always talking about musical things. And the comparison with poetry, the verses. I don't know if that's good English. You know what I mean. Long, short, long, short. That's what he says. And also in this piece, he said, when you don't do that, it has no use. So you have accent. And here is shortening the accent. You can see that, but he's writing accents under the notes, so it's very clear where you have to play them. So that you have this meaning. So that's mainly what's this etude about, and then of course all these scales, which is sometimes not very easy on the end. And then at the really end you have this nice arpeggio. So again, that's for me also a tempo indication. With spirituoso, for me, normal tempo ordinario, between 60 and 70 for the quarter notes. Then the number 15 in E flat. Very beautiful piece. Again, it's about accentuation on the first note. And this is something that is not very easy, because if you play this on a piano, and also on an early 19th century piano, you will notice then that playing an E flat chord with your first finger on the upper E flat here is much easier than on clavichord. So on the piano it's much easier to hold the notes all together. So I can do it here on this instrument also when I'm very careful, but I cannot guarantee that I not will skip one note. I mean skipping in the sense of that the attack is not correct. So certainly for this chord in E flat major, and actually you could consider that as well when you play it on the piano, is to leave the upper E flat here, the lowest, and then just turn your wrist a little bit to the upper E flat in order to position your first finger to make sure that your first finger is in a better position. For Beethoven, both should be accentuated. So that's tricky, of course, in the right. So you have many accents. So it's actually not about learning to play this very fast in order to develop your motoric feeling. It's about creating your hand in a way that you're able to shift from accentuating upper notes to lower notes in one hand. Upper, lower. And then in both hands. I mean, that is very difficult. And something that I was not taught on conservatory. Although I have to say that my teacher emphasized with these etudes, I played some of them for making a beautiful tone, and as I said before, they're great for that. You feel that you are connected with your instrument, you have to. Great piece, great music. Maestro also, again, 30-second notes, 2/4, I think, counting in 8 notes. That's the best. So that was about these 4 etudes. We have 2 blocks of 4 to go, and I really like this small series of Cramer recordings. There's one etude we want to, and I will tell you in one of the next episodes of Afterthought's why. Obviously 21 is difficult to divide by 5, but we could do 5 in one recording, but I'll tell you then why. That doesn't fit the clavichord too well. So thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing as always, and sharing this video with your friends, and we see each other very soon again. Bye!